Hello, folks. Welcome to the HOJ-cast episode number 4. Hope everybody is doing well. I've done 4 of these now, and I've managed, I think, to have a different hoodie on in each, which is setting a bar that is far higher than I'm going to be able to meet in terms of keeping my wardrobe varying. I really don't own many pieces of clothing, but so far, so good. That's just a warning, though, when you see me appearing in the same hoodie over and over again. Don't be alarmed. Okay, or do be alarmed, but just know that I know. All right, so what I want to do today is dive into an article that was published by Andy Bailey today called Ranking Nikola Jokic and the Best 5-Year NBA Star Runs Ever. I think this is going to provide a really cool opportunity to look at basically the 10 best peaks in NBA history according to Andy Bailey, and then marry that with some card content. So after we look at each of these players, I'm then going to hop over to Card Ladder and just kind of real quickly look at some of their historical sales, some of their recent sales, and sort of figure out where each of these guys rank in the hobby market to the extent that we can glean that information from just kind of quickly looking at sales history stuff. So let me dive into that. And then at the very end, I'm just going to say a few words about a poll that I ran on Twitter involving Michael Jordan's collectability. So this is going to tie a bow around the Denver Nuggets 2024-25 season. It was an amazing season. And congratulations to Thunder fans, particularly SGA fans, SGA collectors. I'm almost 100% certain SGA is going to win the MVP based on the publicly disclosed ballots that have been tracked by the MVP tracker spreadsheet so far. And to make the Final Four is extremely exciting. And as sad as I am for myself and the fellow Jokic collectors, I'm equally happy for you guys, and enjoy it. So let's now get into this Andy Bailey article. I think Bailey was feeling a little bit sentimental about the end of this 5-year run for Jokic too. So he has a little preamble. We'll skip over that. Let's just jump right into the players here. So I'm going to read what Bailey wrote, and that I think he does a nice job of succinctly recognizing what these players accomplished. So number 10, we're going to go from the 10th best run, 5-year run of all time, according to Bailey, to the number 1. Number 10 is Wilt Chamberlain, whose run extended from 1959-60 season through 1963-64. By the numbers, 41.7 points, 25.3 rebounds, 3 assists, +5 relative true shooting percentage. That means relative to league average, he was 5 percentage points better by true shooting, and 0.272 win shares per 48 minutes, which is a strong number. Not the highest ever, but it's strong. Here's what Bailey wrote. And his accolades quickly here. 1 MVP, 4 top 4 MVP finishes, 5 All-Star appearances, 4 first-team All-NBAs, and a second team. So Bailey says, right off the bat, we'll take a look at one of those pre-merger peaks with perhaps the most productive individual player in NBA history. Wilt Chamberlain, with the exception of his matchups against Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics, was about as clear of an example of the man against boys cliche as we've ever seen. He was seemingly decades ahead of most of his competition in terms of his combination of size and athleticism, and the raw numbers reflect that. Of course, he's also one of the examples often cited for the kind of player who can put up gaudy numbers without winning at the highest level. As far as the per-game averages go, this was Wilt's best stretch, but he did not win a title in it. Nonetheless, there's just no way to keep these numbers out. Okay, so amazing run by Wilt, obviously. Now let's go over to Card Ladder and take a look. How does Wilt stack up? You know, the interesting thing about this, and the thing that sort of inspired me to want to do this, in terms of like particularly evaluating the prices of some of these guys, there's a lot of centers and bigs on this list, and there's this idea in some of the corners of the hobby that big players, centers, are not collectible, and price isn't necessarily a reflection of collectability, but it does on some level reflect demand and how much people are willing to spend on this particular player's cards. So I'm not saying that this disproves the narrative that people don't want to collect bigs in sports cards. I mean, that could hold true, but I do think that this is just a little extra context for everybody to make up their own mind and see if what we're going to unveil today lines up with common sense or the the narrative. So Wilt's highest sale of all time actually happened last year. Some of you may remember this sale. It was the 1961-62 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain SGC 10 Gem Mint, which sold for $1.7 million. In terms of how the population report stacks up on that card, the SGC 10 has been pulled from the population report because it was if memory serves, it was crossed to a PSA 10, and now the PSA 10 pop is 4. And presumably it's even more desirable as a PSA 10. I believe the backstory in this card too was that it was like recently found in a stack of cards somewhere or something. I don't remember exactly, but they're a $1.7 million sale on the books for Wilt. That's his highest sale of all time. He's got a number of 6-figure sales here. And then the other thing I want to do is just go to recent sales and just see how often, some of these guys have cards selling for more than $500 in the last week or two. So setting the filter on card letter to $500 or more, you can see that Wilt had a PSA 1.5 of the same card, sell for $2,640. That was yesterday, May 18th. This sale jumps out. This 2005 Upper Deck SP Game Used Wilt Chamberlain by the letter PSA 8, serial number 2 of 11, pop 1, none higher. That sold for $40,000 with Heritage. So, Wilt is recording on the public marketplaces at least over the last week or so. Few $500 sales a day, and then once in a while he'll have a big sale. Like here's a sale from about 10 or 11 days ago. A PSA 8 of his 61 Fleer base set card went for $47,500. So, all right, let's keep it moving now. Let's move on to the next player. Thank you, Wilt. The next player on this list, player number 9, is Bill Russell, and the run is 1960 to 60, the 1960-61 NBA season through the 1964-65. The numbers: 16.3 points, 24 rebounds, 4.5 assists, negative 1.3 relative true shooting percentage, 0.211 win shares per 48 minutes. The most mind-boggling number there, this is me, Chris, editorializing, is the 24 rebounds. The rest of those numbers are pretty modest. Bailey lists the accolades as 4 MVPs, regular season MVPs during this stretch. There were not finals MVPs awarded during that time, probably because there was only 2 playoff series played in the entire playoffs. I think that was at least partially a factor, probably. But 4 MVPs, 5 championships. So he won a title in all 5 years during this run, and he won an MVP in 4 of them. 5 top 3 MVP finishes. So the one year they didn't win, he finished top 3. 5 All-Star appearances, 2 first teams, and 3 second teams, which one might think, how did you win the MVP and not make the first team? If memory serves, I've heard people describe that during that era, if you gave MVP to Russell, then you gave first team to Wilt and stuff like that. Okay, so Bailey goes on. Often the foil to Wilt Chamberlain in the early years of their careers, Bill Russell won a championship in each of the 5 years that we're looking at here, and then 6 more. And while there's something to be said about Russell being part of the super team Celtics that also boasted Sam Jones, Tommy Heinsohn, Bob Cousy, and John Havlicek during this half decade, Russell was undoubtedly the group's leader. His total of 76.2 win shares during these 5 years led all Celtics and was almost 30 clear of second place. Russell stacked those up thanks in large part to his stellar defense, but he was also a good passer for a big man and finished plenty of plays himself. So let's take a look now at card letter for Bill Russell. And we'll start by looking at his highest sales. So Russell's highest sale is a PSA 8.5, is the highest public sale. Let me clarify. PSA 8.5 of his 1957 Topps, number 77, which sold almost a little over 2 years ago now on May 11th, 2023. And so is there a higher? There are 3 copies graded higher. There are 3 PSA 9s of that card. I'm going to go out on a limb and say those would probably sell for over $1 million each. So I think like we can confidently say that Russell has a card that has 3 copies in a PSA 9, that each of those are 7-figure cards. And I think Wilt, he had 4 PSA 10s of his 61. So, and each of those are certainly 7-figure cards. So here we have two centers who played, 70 years ago, roughly, who have multiple copies of a card that is worth 7 figures plus. So, and they're both bigs. They're both centers. We barely even have footage of these guys. Not bad. So, okay. And now let's look at how recently Bill Russell has a card selling for over $500. So he's got May 19th, we're in the middle of the day today. We're not done collecting data for today, but on May 18th, Russell's got, 4, looks like cards are sold for over $500. You'll get some stuff like this, his 2007-08 UD Black patch card numbers, gold out of 10, BGS 9. Thing you got to remember about these guys, they just don't have a lot of cards relative to players from the 90s onward, and especially relative to players today. Sometimes they do sneak into sets from today. Sometimes they snuck into sets from the 2000s, like this 2003 exquisite Bill Russell number pieces, number 1 of 6. Looks like this sold 2 days ago for $91,500 for this Russell from the inaugural edition of Exquisite Basketball. Okay, so pretty cool. That is a very expensive piece of cardboard. Okay, let's move on the list now to number 8. Giannis Antetokounmpo is number 8. His 5-year peak is 2018-19 through 2022-23. By the numbers, 29.2 points, 12.1 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 1.2 blocks, 1.2 steals, plus 5.6 relative true shooting percentage, and a 10.1 box plus minus. So players whose peaks happened after the 1973-74 season will have a box plus minus all-in-one metric to refer to, and that's what Bailey uses for the majority of players on this list. Those who came before, he uses win shares per 48 minutes instead, because BPM, box plus minus, is not able to be calculated prior to 73-74 due to the limited stat keeping. So here are Giannis's accolades during this 5-year run: 2 regular season MVPs, 1 championship, 1 finals MVP, 5 top 4 MVP finishes, 5 all-star appearances, 5 first team All-NBAs, and 4 first team all defenses. Bailey writes that even in the most talented, athleticism, and skill-rich era in the NBA, Giannis has managed to stand apart. For this half decade, he was every bit the athletic outlier that all-timers like LeBron, Shaq, and MJ were before him. In fact, in some ways, Giannis sort of is this era's Shaq, though he's sort of the next link in the evolutionary chain, especially from 2018-19 through 2022-23. He was a sort of a more in-shape version of Shaq, and one that could also play point forward. Giannis is a freight train in transition, a monster around the rim, and a force of nature playmaker who generates assists largely because of the immense attention that he draws as a scorer. And if that wasn't enough, Giannis also was one of the league's best and most versatile defenders during this half decade. He could dominate the boards, protect the rim, and survive on switches outside. Combine all of that with the championship in 2021 and his finals averages of 35.2 points, 13.2 rebounds, and 5 assists that year, and a Defensive Player of the Year win, and you could probably even bump Giannis up a few spots. And so let's go over here to Cardline and take a look at Giannis. First, we'll take a look at his highest sales. These are probably more familiar to some of us. They're a bit more familiar to me, as Giannis is more in the era of players that I collect. Giannis's highest sale of all time is his 2013 NT Logo Man autograph base set number 130 BGS 9 auto 10 base set parallel, I should clarify. So that card sold for $1.8 million in September of 2020. He has another $1 million sale, which is the 2013 Prism Black Mosaic, which also is from his rookie year. That sold for $1.14 million in December of 2020. We were talking about this sale on the Card Letter Confidential episode. Josh, Brett, and I were, and we were sort of describing this sale as having taken place during the pandemic, and it did. The pandemic, or at least the stay-at-home orders, started around like March or April of 2020. But the thing about this card, And granted, yes, this sale came after The Last Dance and after a lot of run up in price in the whole bubble thing. But this sale and the NT sale that I cited, they came before we saw that high end run up that characterized 2021 and 2022, which it was January or February of 2021 when all of a sudden those MJ 1986 number 57 Fleer PSA 10s started skyrocketing from 150K all the way up to 720K. So these sales came before all of that. So I just wanted to remark, because I was thinking back on that podcast, that these were like early pandemic sales. These were not even peak pandemic sales, but you can also kind of figure that out looking at Giannis's index. His index and card ladder doesn't end up peaking until 2022 either. So these were strong sales, probably would have been even stronger, in other words, had they happened at a more opportune time. Now let's look at the most recent sales from Giannis over the last couple of days. So we've got, just looking at $500 sales coming in. We've got cool cards like this 2013 Court Kings Rookie Portraits Red Frame Giannis. Apparently it's numbered to 25 at BGS 9, sold for $810. That's a pretty cool looking card. And here we're on May 18th. I mean, Giannis has got roughly a dozen sales at $500 or more. He's in a lot of these cool insert sets, like the 2023 Obsidian Color Blast that went for $560 in the grade of a PSA 9. And we just kind of scroll here. Let's see if there's any kind of bigger Giannis sales. There's a pretty big Heritage auction on Saturday night. This was one of the sales that it contained. His 2013 Immaculate patch autograph, numbered to 99, PSA 10, that sold for $17,000. PSA 10s on Immaculate's pretty tough. Let's see here. Then, are there any other kind of big flashy sales of Giannis that might have happened recently? So I can see here that his silver PSA 10 is it's a Pop 87. It's still selling for, it looks like, around $5,500. That's a really strong price for a card that has 87 copies. But yeah, I mean, you can keep scrolling. I mean, you could scroll all day and find really cool Giannis cards. But okay, let's move on to the next player on this list. The next player on this list is Magic Johnson, and his 5-year run from 1985-86 through 1989-90. By the numbers, Magic, 21.5 points, 12.2 assists, 6.6 rebounds, 1.7 steals during this 5-year run, a plus 7.1 relative true shooting percentage, and an 8.3 box plus minus. As far as the accolades go, 3 MVPs, 2 championships, 1 finals MVP, 5 top 3 MVP finishes, 5 all-star teams, 5 first-team All-NBAs. So Bailey says, this is true of almost everyone on this list, but there is more than one 5-year stretch to choose from for Magic. If you go earlier in his career, you can get 2 finals MVPs instead of 1, but Magic didn't really hit his individual peak until later, and the numbers from this 5-year run are truly bonkers. He wasn't just the game's most prolific playmaker, he was probably its flashiest too, and ushering in the era of Showtime for the Los Angeles Lakers helped revolutionize the league. Magic made the run and gun offense fun. He changed perceptions for what's possible for a player at his size. And of course, everything he did on the floor led to plenty of winning at the NBA's highest level. So let's hop over to Card Ladder and take a look at some Magic Johnson sales. And the thing you're going to find about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird is that both of these guys' most valuable card features each other. It's the 1980 top scoring leaders, which functions in the hobby as a sort of dual rookie card for Bird and Magic, or at least that's how Golden labeled it, as a rookie card. And there's another player on there too. Dr. J is on that card as well, but it's nowhere close to his rookie season. But you got Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, both on this card. The highest sale of that card on record was $840,000 in August of 2021, which was the aforementioned sort of pandemic peak for, especially for cards like this. So $840,000 on that. Now, what happens if we take away Larry? What's the highest solo Magic Johnson card? And then I would need to remove Kobe and Jordan and other players who might have dual or multiplayer cards. And then the highest sale is this 03 exquisite limited logos Magic Johnson PSA 10. which sold for $98,400 in March of 2022. Now let's look at some recent sales for Magic. Oh, and by the way, this is an interesting card. So this is the 1981-82 Topps, second year Topps for Magic. It sold for $59,000 in 2021. Looks like its value has come down quite a bit since then. The current card letter value is $7,500 for that. All right, let's look at the date sold list here, and let's see. So just how many times is Magic having a card for over $500 sell? So it looks like he had 5 yesterday. And he snuck into some of these ultra modern insert sets too. Granted, these are post playing days cards for Magic Johnson. But this is the 2020 Court Kings blank slate Magic Johnson, and a PSA 10 went for $840. Here's another 03 exquisite Magic card, PSA authentic auto 10 number pieces out of 32 for $5,200. He had one of these sell. Remember Wilt had one of these sell for a ton. Here's a 2005 Upper Deck SP game used by the letter Magic Johnson out of 7. A PSA 10 went for $15,000. And, we can just continue scrolling here and see lots of cool Magic Johnson sales. Here's a 2014. You don't really see Eminence cards sell all that often. Eminence MVP signatures, Magic Johnson, 1 of 1, sold for $2,300. All right, let's move on to the next player on the list. Larry Bird. Number 6 is Larry Bird with his 5-year peak from 1983-84 through 1987-88. By the numbers, Bird, 27.3 points, 9.8 rebounds, 6.8 assists, 1.8 steals, 0.9 blocks, a plus 4.8 relative true shooting percentage, and an 8.7 box plus minus. Accolades, 3 regular season MVPs, 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 5 top 3 MVP finishes, 5 All-Stars, 5 first-team All-NBAs, and 1 second-team All-Defense. So Bailey writes, like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell in the 60s, Magic and Bird were the superstar rivalry that carried the NBA in the 80s. And while there are solid arguments to have either in this 6th spot, meaning either Bird or Magic, or even higher, Bird gets the slightest of nods here for the extra finals MVP and an All-Defense selection for good measure. Larry Bird's career and 5-year peak were about a lot more than his rivalry with Magic, though. He was one of the league's best tough shot makers of all time. His feel for the game was off the charts. His passing made life easier for all of his teammates. And on a related note, few players across league history were clearer make his teammates better guys than Bird. That feel for the game and a nose for steals and rebounds also makes Larry Bird an underappreciated defender as well. Put it all together, and Bird was one of the absolute best forwards to ever play the game, and he was particularly special during a peak that may have been cut short by back problems. All right, so we just did Magic. Let's do Larry Bird, and let's just take Magic off because we've already looked at the sales for the Bird Magic PSA 10. The highest Larry Bird sales, once we take that away, and let's just focus on solo cards here. Bird's highest solo card sale also comes from that 1981 Topps. I shouldn't say also. The Magic's second highest solo sale, if I remember correctly, what we were just looking at was the 1981 Topps. For Bird, it's his highest solo card sale. The second year of Topps, Bird PSA 10 sold for $49,200 in February of 2021. It's a pop 68. And it most recently sold for $12,500. So, and Bird has a lot of cool like dual cards you can see here. Here's a more recent issue, 2017 Panini National Treasures Logo Man autographs, Larry Bird, BGS 8.5. Can't see the autograph grade. I'm not going to click in right now and waste time doing that. It is a 1 of 1. That card sold last September for $34,000. Healthy price for Bird. And then let's look at recently. Yesterday, May 18th, Bird had 1 Panini 1-1 Timeless Moments card sell for over $500. Then we go back to May 17th. He's got a few more selling for over $500. Looks like he's got 4. He had the 2023 Flawless Shade Signatures Platinum. That's a pretty cool looking card. Black and white photo, but the Celtics portion of the jersey, the number of the nameplate are green. Autograph 1 of 1 sold for $1,600. Neat card. And of course, Heritage sold one of these by the numbers of Bird too. Is a PSA 8, numbered 4 of 4, pop 1, none higher, sold for $11,000. And we can just kind of continue our Bird scroll here and see if any other interesting or flashy cards pop up. We referenced a different logo man of Bird. Matter of fact, that might even be the same card. I didn't scrutinize it super closely, but Bird had a logo man autograph sell for I think it is the same card, sell for just under 32 grand in May of 2025, and look, it got flipped. So, okay, enough on Larry Bird. Let's keep moving. Number 5, Stephen Curry with the 5-year peak from 2014-15 through 2018-19. By the numbers, 26.5 points, 6.5 assists, 4.9 rebounds, 4.4 threes, 1.8 steals, and a plus 9.9 relative true shooting percentage, 8.8 box plus minus. As far as the accolades go, 2 MVPs, 3 championships, 3 top 5 MVP finishes, 5 all-star nods, 3 first-team All-NBAs. Bailey writes, few, if any, players who have appeared in an NBA game have a stronger, quote, he literally changed the game argument than Stephen Curry. In 2008-09, the last campaign without Curry, 22.4% of all shots taken in the NBA were three-pointers. This season, 42.1% were. And the stretch of Curry's career that pushed the game hardest in that direction was the one listed above. The volume of his outside shooting was one thing. The degree of difficulty of many of his shots is what made him appointment viewing. Not too far into Curry's first MVP season in 2014-15, teams had to start chasing Curry with multiple defenders several feet outside the three-point line. There is no way to overstate how dramatically that changed the dynamic of each game for his teammates. Just having him on the floor created 4-on-3 opportunities for his Golden State Warriors in the half court. Curry was the most influential offensive player in modern history, and he was consistently the most influential offensive player in just about every game he played. During his 5-year stretch, the Warriors were plus 15.9 points per 100 possessions with Curry on the floor and a minus 1.8 when he was off. All of that should be enough to justify Curry's top 5 spot here, but there are also some pretty obvious knocks against his case that must be mentioned. Kevin Durant and Andre Iguodala won the finals MVPs for the 3 championships during this run, and Box Plus Minus pegged Kevin Durant as the best player from the 2017 and 2018 finals, even ahead of LeBron James. But in hindsight, Iguodala getting the finals MVP over Curry in 2015 is borderline absurd. And on-off data from the playoffs always suggested that Curry's presence was what enabled Durant to dominate in the way he did as a Warrior. The trajectories of each player's career after they split support that assertion too. Okay, so let's go look at some Curry data, and you are going to see some monster sales here, of course. So we're going to look first at the highest sales, and you can see here Curry has one public sale in card that are over $1 million and plenty over 700,000, and all of them are of some version of his 2009 NT RPA. The highest sale is of the out of 5 parallel, which was called the Century Platinum parallel that year, sold for just over $1 million in August of 2022. Curry does have a sort of sale on the public docket of, I think it was just under 6 million, like 5.9 million bucks. It was a partial sale of his 2009 NT Logoman autograph parallel to his NT RPA. And that card, by the way, is vertically oriented rather than horizontally oriented like this one is. That sale or transaction was only for roughly half of the card. I think the original owner retained half ownership, and then I think one of the alt funds bought into half. I don't remember exactly what the reporting was on this. I mean, the sale was years ago, but basically I think one of the alt funds bought into like half the card, and the owner retained ownership over half of it too. So let's see, what's the first non-NT high-end sale? Yeah, so we started getting into some Curry Topps Chrome Gold Refractor sales that are at the $500,000 mark. This is a really interesting sale. I always find this sale to be fascinating. This is the 2009 Panini Absolute Memorabilia Signature Materials NBA Logoman 1 of 1. This is a sticker autograph card, but it is a Logoman autograph card. It was in a PSA Authentic holder with a PSA 10 autograph grade, and it sold for just under $500,000 in May of 2022. An absolute card selling for $500,000. I'd be amazed if there was a different absolute brand card that had ever sold for more. I'll just look that up super quickly here because I'm curious now. No, nothing's ever really come close. The next closest are some of the green kabooms that were inserted into absolute, but The next closest is a Brady Green Kaboom, which sold for $188,000 in February of 2022. Okay, so let's go back to Curry and let's just see how many sales he's racking up over $500 on a daily basis. So if we look at May 18th, he's got, looks like maybe a dozen, roughly, maybe more sales, certainly more than a dozen. He's got a ton of sales from May 18th, over $500. Now it's not, I would say probably two and a half dozen. Now it's not a totally fair apples to apples comparison of Curry versus some of these other guys who are on this list. Simply because Curry is featured in so many more products and he has so many more cards. So there's just going to be a larger volume. But this also is indicating that there is more appetite and demand also, I think it would be fair to say, to buy Curry cards in the $500 and up range than just about any player we've talked about so far. So some of the sales, this is a cool card. It's kind of it's not exactly the card you would first expect to pull up when you think about Stephen Curry. The 2019 Prism Mojo out of 25, BGS 9.5, that sold for $690 on the Sunday Night Fanatics Weekly. Here's a 2016 NT Signatures Curry autograph card, not graded, out of 35, went for about $1,800. Just lots of really cool Curry cards. Curry has so many cool cards. So let's see what this one caught my eye. This 2023 Flawless Generational Talent Diamonds insert out of 3. This sold, there's your Flawless diamond there. This sold for $630. So, scroll Curry sales someday and you'll just see so many cool cards and products and sets. And he can even elevate a product like Absolute to have a sale of over $500,000. Okay, so let's move on here. We are getting to the home stretch. We are at number 4, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We are looking at his 5-year peak from 1970-71 through 1974-75. By the numbers during that 5-year run, Kareem averaged 30.8 points per game, 15.5 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 3.4 blocks, 1.2 steals, a +8 relative true shooting percentage, and .295 win shares per 48 minutes, which I commented on the earlier win shares for Russell and Wilt, and this is the one other player who uses win shares per 48. .295 that's a very high win shares per 48. Pretty sure Kareem has the highest win shares per 48 of any player in league history over his career. Pretty sure about that. Okay, so here are the accolades that Bailey identifies. During this 5-year run, Kareem had 3 regular season MVPs, 1 championship, 1 finals MVP, 4 top 2 MVP finishes, 5 All-Stars, 4 first-team All-NBAs, and 2 first-team All-Defenses. Bailey writes that the bridge from the Russell and Wilt era to Bird and Magic was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was absurdly productive before joining the Los Angeles Lakers in 1975. Kareem's total of 100.9 win shares during that half decade was 36.1 clear of second place Walt Frazier. It was more than the combined total of 5th place Bob Lanier and 6th place Dave Cowens. Kareem, like Wilt and Giannis, looked like a physical anomaly next to his peers. He absolutely dominated as a scorer with his sky hook and as a rebounder, defender, and shot blocker with his length, athleticism, and timing. And while he didn't start stacking up titles until he went to LA and was later joined by Magic, this early career run from Kareem, which did include a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks, it was his best run. So let's hop over to Card Ladder. Let's see what the highest Kareem sales on the books are. Another center, another big. Don't be surprised. You probably won't be surprised to learn that people who are large and tall have an advantage at basketball, and they make better basketball players. So for Kareem, his highest sale is a dual card with Kobe, a dual logo man autograph from 06 Exquisite that sold with Sotheby's last December. And then as a member of the 1986 Fleer Stickers set, which is pursued by set builders, his next high sale is his sticker from that particular insert set, which went for $266,000 as a PSA 10 in August of 2022. His 1969 Topps Tall Boy, number 25, which is referred to as his rookie card in the hobby, or at least it is in this listing title from Heritage, Its high sale was in a grade PSA 9 for $204,000. It's a Pop 18. That sale happened in August of 2021. But here's the interesting part that I want to point out to you. So, like I said, there are 18 PSA 9s. The current card letter value on those is $170,000. There are 2 PSA 10s, and the current card letter value on those is $1.27 million. And those PSA 10s actually provide a cautionary tale for what can happen when your Pop 1 turns into a Pop 2. It's one of my favorite stories. So in August of 2016, this card was a Pop 1, and it sold as a PSA 10, and it sold at Heritage for $500,000. Then the Pop 2 came out a little more than a year later, November of 2017. The second one sold for $240,000. So going from the Pop 1 to a Pop 2, and also having 2 sales right next to each other, definitely delivered a blow to the value of that card. But either one of those owners is, I think, doing fine today with a card letter value of $1.27 million. So there's Kareem as well. So we have seen that there are multiple copies of $1 million cards in circulation for Kareem, for Wilt, for Bill Russell. So there are 3 different centers that we've looked at who have a card valued at $1 million or more. How many positions in basketball have multiple players who have at least one card with multiple copies, or even just one card that's worth over $1 million? We've seen 3 centers so far who do, depending upon what position you put some of these other guys in as well. So, all right, let's look at Kareem's recent sales. Let's see how often he's got a card selling for $500 or more. He had none on May 18th. He had one on May 17th, which was the 81 Tops. Again, we see the 81 Tops set popping up. A few days ago, it looks like, for the last few days, he just had 2 sales over $500. But then you get to May 15th, and now you're up to 4 sales of Kareem. This card, these are interesting. I don't even know what they're. Card memorabilia hybrids. This is the 1986. This is the Fleer sticker set again, but this time it's been encapsulated in combination by Beckett and Jersey Fusion, and they included what I believe is, well, what the label says is a Jersey Fusion game used tag, which has been implanted into the slab. That sold for $970. Didn't come out of the pack that way, but this is sort of aftermarket card. I mean, if you wanted to be charitable, it's sort of like a remix card, bringing together a piece of memorabilia and the card itself. The less charitable way to describe that would be a little bit of a gimmick, but hey, that almost $1,000 for that. Let's see if there's any other cool Kareems we can find. That this 1972 Topps Kareem SGC 8.5, very cool looking, very iconic looking card. So here's a 1983 Star Kareem PSA 9, went for $500. All right, so that will do it for Kareem. Let's move on now to number 4 Kareem is number 4. Let's move on to number 3 on our list, Nikola Jokic. His 5-year peak, 2020-21 season through 2024-25, by the numbers: 26.8 points, 12.3 rebounds, 9 assists, 1.4 steals, plus 8.9 relative true shooting percentage, 13.1 box plus minus. Accolades: 3 regular season MVPs, 1 championship, 1 finals MVP, 5 top 2 MVP finishes, meaning for that whole run, he never finished lower than second. 5 all-star nods, 4 first-team All-NBAs. And just like how we kind of discussed earlier with Russell and Wilt, the reason Jokic doesn't have 5 first-team All-NBAs is because one of the years I think Embiid took – I'm not sure. Actually, the way it worked was Jokic was given a first-team All-NBA the year that Embiid won MVP, I think. So I'm not sure why he has 4 instead of 5. Maybe that was the 2021. I don't know. Anyway, sorry for that digression. Here's what Bailey had to say. As mentioned at the top, there is a very real argument to have this half decade from Jokic in the top spot of this slideshow. That 13.1 box plus minus is the highest ever for any 5-year run. Jokic's numbers came during the NBA's absolute peak in terms of depth and variety of talent, and the only real knock against the resume, the fact that it only includes 1 title, is pretty easy to explain. Jamal Murray missed the 2021 and 2022 playoff runs while recovering from a torn ACL, and in 2024, Murray was hampered by a hamstring injury. This year, Michael Porter Jr. played the bulk of his possessions with a shoulder injury that would have kept him out of regular season games, and Aaron Gordon had a grade 2 hamstring strain in the game that knocked Denver out. The 1 year that Jokic's supporting cast was healthy, which was 2023, he won the championship. And Jokic has done all this without ever playing with an all-star teammate and while completely revitalizing and redefining the center position. His impact on the way the game is played isn't likely to be as great as Curry's, but you can already see the influence in how many teams now let their big men create in ways similar to Jokic. We just witnessed, in all likelihood, the best 5-year statistical run in NBA history, and only the best stretches of the two best players in league history can keep him out of the top spot in this exercise. So let's go look at the Jokic cards on card ladder quickly here. First, we'll start by looking at the highest price. Jokic's highest selling solo card is his 2015 Immaculate Logoman patch insert 1 of 1, graded PSA 7, sold for $205,000 in May of 2024. And you may remember that there was some coverage of this sale more recently as content creators in the hobby were doing their 2024 wrap-ups. This was the highest sale of a sports card on eBay for the whole year of 2024. More recently, Jokic had a 2022-23, which was his championship year, flawless Logoman autograph, 1 of 1, sell for $90,000. That sale happened May 1st, so just about 2.5 weeks ago. And if we look at more recent Jokic sales, let's see how many times he has a card sell for $500 or more. So he has one for May 19th, but we're still collecting May 19th data. If we look at May 18th and see how many he had yesterday, we get about half a dozen, maybe just a little shot, but maybe about 10 or so sales in the $500 range. And he's got some really cool ones, like this 2015 Noir. That's his rookie year. This is a patch autograph card numbered to 99. That sold for $3,000. Here's his 2024 prismatic insert. That card looks insane. $542 for that. Here's a random 2017 Vanguard purple V team out of 25. It's a patch autograph card that sold for $650. Here's a sale of his prism based PSA 10 for $800. So there you go. Jokic racking up some sales too. Let's see if we can scroll and see any other like really cool eye-popping ones. Here's a pretty cool card. 2020 Crown Royale Silhouette Material Autograph Prime out of 10. BGS 8.5 autograph 10 sold for $4,000, a little over $4,000 on alt. All right, so let's go. Who's up number 2? It is LeBron James with his 5-year peak, according to Bailey, happening from 2008-09 through 2012-13 by the numbers: 27.8 points, 7.6 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 1.7 steals, plus 6.7 relative true shooting percentage, and an 11.1 box plus minus. Here are the accolades: 4 regular season MVPs, 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 5 top 3 MVP finishes, 5 All-Stars, 5 first-team All-NBAs, 5 first-team All-Defenses. Bailey writes, LeBron had the physical uniqueness of players like Giannis, Zion, Shaq, or Wilt, while also being one of the most skilled players in the league throughout his peak and even outside of it. LeBron was a pioneer on the route to positionless basketball, one of the best passers of all time and an athletic marvel. And while it would be easy to argue that the Jokic numbers you just saw are better, and it might be easy to argue that Jokic's 1 championship with his cast is as impressive as LeBron's 2 with Wade and Bosh, LeBron still gets the edge here for a couple of reasons. First, LeBron was undoubtedly the more consistent and versatile defender. When called upon, peak LeBron was capable of shutting down or at least frustrating just about any perimeter player. And though Jokic has been pretty clearly the league's best player for the last half decade, more fans and analysts seem hesitant to accept that than they were of LeBron's best in the world status during these 5 years. So let's now look at some LeBron sales and now get ready to see incredible sales numbers. So LeBron's highest sale on record is $5.2 million from April of 2021. It was his 03 exquisite RPA parallel, numbered to 23, grade BGS 9 auto 10. Sold for $5.2 million. Here's another sale of the jersey numbered version of his exquisite RPA, but the number to 99, that sold for just under 2.5. Everybody should remember his triple Logoman card from 2020 Flawless that resulted in infamous breaks, live streams, and I believe promotional billboards, digital ones in Times Square, and lots of Ken Golden slogans. I mean, look, I'm scrolling and we're still looking at LeBron sales that are over 2 million. we're getting now into the 1 million range. I mean, gosh, LeBron has, it looks like a few dozen sales over $1 million at least, and most of them are of his exquisite RPA. Then we get down here into the range of his Topps Chrome Gold refractor out of 50. We get the 04, so the second year Ultimate Collection logo man autograph LeBron sold for $850,000. Okay, now let's look and see how many $500 plus sales LeBron is racking up on a daily basis. So he's already got several from 2019, including this one, which caught my eye. That's why you might have noticed here up at the search bar that I was looking up this 2013 Innovation Kaboom LeBron PSA 10, which I believe is a pop of 12. It just apparently had somebody smash bin on eBay. We haven't reviewed this sale yet today. We review all sales at night after collecting all of them. So we haven't looked at this sale yet in Card Ladder, but it looks like somebody smashed bin after somebody listed this for 20 grand, which is a dubious listing because as I looked up this card on Card Ladder, I noticed that this card had actually sold not that long ago with Fanatics, I believe Fanatics Weekly, for $43,000. And yeah, it's a pop 12. And LeBron's index has gone up quite a bit since then. So somebody smashed bin on that $19,000 sale there on that 2013 LeBron Kaboom PSA 10. All right, so let me reset my filter here. So how often, let's figure out on May 18th, how many times did LeBron have a card sell for over $500? And LeBron is a player like some of the other players, but especially LeBron and Curry, they've accumulated over a decade's worth, LeBron 2 decades worth of cards, and lots of people want them and they're very valuable. So let's see, on May 18th, I'm just going to try and eyeball how many cards over $500 of LeBron sold. I'm still scrolling. We're probably at 3 to 4 dozen now. I would say probably around 40 to 50, just eyeballing that. Let's see if there's any cool sales here. Like here's just something kind of neat. A LeBron Kobe duel, 2005 UD Reflections, numbered to 50. It's 2 napkin patches. One of the napkins is white. One of the napkins is red. Does napkin patch refer only to a plain white patch? And really, it's not a patch; it's a jersey. Does it refer to only white, or can red be a napkin too? A red napkin, a ketchup packet, maybe. Here's another card: 2023 Topps Finest. This is an unlicensed, or maybe it's more accurate to say a partially licensed LeBron card. It's an autograph for 2023 of LeBron on card, gold, number to 15. That sold for $3,200. I mean, with a player like LeBron, you just get random cards, random unnumbered 20th year cards selling for over $1,000. 2023 Prism LeBron James King Snake. I think maybe that's just a snakeskin parallel, and the seller just King James or whatever. $1,250. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to waste a lot of time browsing LeBron sales. There's always going to be just so many. Like here's a LeBron card sold for $100,000 on Saturday Night with Heritage. 2003 Ultimate, numbered to 23, PSA 10. Says the only PSA graded example. That's pretty neat. So, all right, let's get on to number 1. Michael Jordan, 5-year peak, 1988-89 through 1992-93 by the numbers: 32 points, 6.8 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 2.7 steals per game, plus 5.7 relative true shooting percentage, 11.2 box plus minus, accolades, 2 regular season MVPs, 3 championships, 3 finals MVPs, 5 top 3 MVP finishes, 5 All-Stars, 5 first-team All-NBAs, 5 first-team All-Defenses. Bailey says the following: at least for now, the GOAT's peak is probably safe. Michael Jordan played in an era with some absolute legends like Charles Barkley, John Stockton, David Robinson, and Hakeem, but he was head and shoulders above them all, despite standing just 6'6". Jordan combined much of what's been mentioned for others above: a revolutionary game, an era-defining athleticism, elite skill, and absurd production, with perhaps the most ferocious appetite for winning we've ever seen. That translated to 6 championships and 6 finals appearances, and during the 5 years listed here, he was at his physical peak too. We've been searching for something like Jordan for almost 3 decades, and we have yet to see it. The greatest player of all time, unsurprisingly, had the best 5-year run. And I don't think we need to spend much time at all looking at Michael Jordan cards on Card Ladder. I think similar to LeBron, we already know what we're going to see when we look this up. Michael Jordan, his highest public sale is $2.928 million, which was an auction with Golden last June of his Ultimate Collection logo man autograph, 1 of 1. Then he's got 2 other sales, public sale. Well, one's a private sale that was reported publicly. So 3 sales in card ladder at 2 million or more. A couple more sales over $1 million. Some of the cards are showing up here. His 1997 Upper Deck game jersey autograph card. We've got a private sale of the 84 star PSA 9 at $925,000. Public sale at Heritage during that December 2020 period. Remember this card, this PMG green one for $900,000. I think there are some people looking at that saying, man, that was the last chance anybody had to get a PMG green. $915,000 seems pretty good based on what a card like that would sell for today. And then let's see how many cards Jordan has selling in the 500 or plus range. So let's scroll past May 19th. Let's go to May 18th because we have complete data for May 18th. So eyeballing May 18th, and we're going to see lots of 90s parallels and, you know, PSA 10 base cards from the 90s and stuff. Still scrolling here in May 18th. Still scrolling. I am still scrolling $500 plus sales on May 18th. Okay, now we finally stopped. I would say that's over 100, probably 100 to 120 sales of $500 or more on May 18th. And some of the cards you see here, I mean, 1996 Bowman's Best, Best Shots, Atomic Refractor, PGS 10. That's just a cool $6,000 for that card. A 2011 Fleer Retro on-card autograph, Michael Jordan PSA 9 Auto 10 that shows him in a North Carolina uniform. $5,700 for that. I always found these cards to be cool. Never owned one. The 1991 first appearing base set card from Fleer, the 3D Rapper Redemption acrylic, sold for $1,000 as a BGS 85. That ain't bad. If I saw that for that price on a table at a card show, I might buy it just because I'd never owned it before. And $1,000 seems reasonable compared to some of the other prices we're going to see. Okay. That will do it. So let me recap the top 10 here. I actually made a list here, I made a Google Sheet here using Bailey's data and then sort of used the HOJ metric to re-rank these players. But first, let's just recap. And now I'll go from 1st to 10th, the players who appeared. I'm not going to give the 5-year peak for all of them. Michael Jordan 1st, LeBron James 2nd, Nikola Jokic 3rd, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar 4th, Stephen Curry 5th, Larry Bird 6th, Magic Johnson 7th, Giannis Antetokounmpo 8th, Bill Russell 9th, and Wilt Chamberlain 10th. And then I used my total MVP method, which is simply combining regular season MVPs and finals MVPs to rank these players. And then when you do that, LeBron has 6, and he's the only player with 6 during the 5-year peak. So he comes out first. Bird and Jordan tie for 2nd at 5. And then 4 guys tie for 4th with 4 total MVPs. 4 guys tied for 4th with 4 total MVPs. That's Jokic, Kareem, Magic, and Bill Russell. Then you get to Giannis, who had 3 total MVPs during his stretch. Curry, who has 2. But remember, like Bailey pointed out, the Iguodala Finals MVP is tough. And then you have Wilt, who came through with 1. And also remember that players like Russell and Wilt were playing during an era that did not award a Finals MVP, but it also probably didn't make a lot of sense to award a Finals MVP when you were just playing 2 playoff series. And it was a very small league. So that's going to do it for recapping that list. Hope that was enjoyable. And then I promised that I would talk about this at the very end of the show. This is a tweet that I sent out, and the tweet says, which is the biggest driver of MJ's collectability? And then I don't really have very many people engaging with me on Twitter, but I got 170 votes, which is pretty good. So I gave 3 categories. Which is the biggest driver of MJ's collectability? On-court accomplishments, the Jordan brand, parentheses, fashion plus, fashion shoes, or celebrity. And then in parentheses, Space Jam, etc. By celebrity, I'm thinking, appearances on Oprah, starring in the movie Space Jam, going on tours, and just flocks of people coming just to see you because you're Michael Jordan. So I asked about those 3, and it was a landslide. 76.5% of respondents said on-court accomplishments, which ties back into the exercise that we just did. Looking through those top 10, those are, according to Andy Bailey, the 10 best 5-year peaks the NBA has ever seen. And NBA analysis often puts the 5-year peak as the sort of holy grail, that there are players who can be good for a long time. They can, over a long time, they can, happen to gather a lot of points and, maybe play on some championship teams and stuff. But what the NBA has seemed, discourse around the NBA seems to be focused on is those are all valuable things. And then there have been great careers that have been built off of durability and longevity and accumulating accomplishments over a long period. But the NBA has a focus on who was the best of the best at their best. That's sort of the peak idea. If we compare every player's best 5 years, who had the best 5 years of anybody? Who was the best at their best compared to everybody else? Which is an on-court accomplishment, obviously. And so it's nice or interesting to relate this idea that of the 170 hobbyists who voted on this poll, 76.5% said MJ's on-court accomplishments, of which his 5-year peak is one, is the biggest driver of MJ's collectability. So we are going to wrap up this podcast. Now, this is the longest HOJ-cast to date, and quite frankly, I need a swig of water and I need to take a breath. So just over 55 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And we'll be back with HOJ-cast number 5 at some point.